All right, guys, this is gonna be the most crucial lesson to get your stuff synced up perfectly here. Now, it's not what it sounds like. I just mean getting everything prepped on grid so that it'll work perfectly with the CDJs when you drop them in. Now, I highly recommend doing this and having your stuff perfect and ready to go. It's the best way to kind of walk up to a DJ rig and know with confidence that you can use all the functions and kill it and not have to worry about any technical issues because you would be locked in appropriately. And you don't have to go entirely locked in. You can kind of do a loose version of it. So I'm gonna explain all of that right now. And where it all starts is looking at Rekordbox right here, that very first, that is gonna be the one of your song. So you always wanna make sure that the beginning hit of your song in Rekordbox has that first red line locked up. You'll see it shows a 4-beat count with the red line and then 3 gray ones and then the next red line. That's just the 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, this is counting your bars. So let's open up another one that is not lined up and I'm gonna show you guys how to fix it. So if I open up, let's say this one right here, you'll see that one worked out well and lined up with the one at the beginning of it. Taking a look at this one, did not. Let's see why. Maybe there's a pickup going into the first hit, which there is. So that one is also correct and ready to go. If I pull up this one is not ready to go and needs to be fixed. So if you'll see at the beginning, there's that very first hit and there is no red line. It's actually counting the one of the song a couple beats later and that's gonna throw the whole musical grid off. So because DJing is in bars and a lot of counting and stuff like that, you definitely wanna make sure this is good to go. So the way to do that is on this left side here, you're gonna see cue, loop, and grid. So we wanna fix the grid because it's off with our audio right now. If we select the grid mode, you'll see all these features come up. And what it is you see that little red and white line here. This is gonna become the marker. Anywhere you click this on in the audio, it'll move that one to where you selected it. All these other features, you can dial in the BPM if it didn't register correctly, or you can shift around that red line by nudging it with these features, and they're just different lengths of nudging, basically. But we're not gonna need that. Let's keep going down the line here, though, because there's this metronome, which is very important, and then there's a volume for the metronome. So what we wanna do first is go to the beginning of the track, and we're gonna place our main cursor, which is the longest red line that kind of shows you where we're always at, and zoom in as far as we can. We're gonna go to the very beginning of that and tighten it up right there. And you're gonna click on that red and white line, and now we have placed the one of the song at the beginning of the first hit. To check it, we turn on the metronome, get the volume up 1 tick there, and you can hear the ticker lining up with the click and the kick. So if it sounds off, you can actually take this opportunity, let's zoom out a little bit, to nudge it to the right using these buttons right here, or nudge it to the left if you think you need a pickup on it. Doesn't sound right to me though. You want to get them locked in there. I think that's sounding right to me. Cool, let's go back to the beginning and check it out again and see how it lined up after we nudged it around a bit. It's looking pretty spot on. So we're good to go. So that is how you do the first step in getting your songs on the musical grid. It is so important because there's a quantize feature on the CDJs. You're definitely gonna want, to make sure if that is on, that it'll actually process your songs the correct way because it'll line up with that. You don't need to use the quantize feature on the CDJs, but that is what lines up with this musical grid. And if you do have it on, it can actually work in a huge favor for the technicality side of looping on the fly and stuff like that. So next up, we're gonna add some cues and loops, hot cues, which we're gonna go over later on the CDJs. But basically, I like to have loops set up on my track ready to go. And this way I can mix in the loops, but I also have a regular basic starting point, cue point you wanna do. So you can always just click on one of these letters down here to set up your cue point. So let's say you just wanna have a cue point that you trigger with the hot cue, and it starts right there. You would just select the A button. You gotta get it right on there. And now see that green dot pops up and the A button lights up green. So now when you go to your CDJs and you load in this track, you're gonna see it on the side there. The A button will be green. You select it, it's gonna launch this cue point. okay? If you want to add a loop to a cue point, which you can do, what you do is you go to the point where you want to start and you select how many bars you want to loop right here. I usually do 8-bar loop, and you select that and turn on the loop first, and then select your hot cue that you want to assign it to. Oops. Like so. Let me see here. Turn this off first. Like that. So now the hot cue lights up orange, and it'll cue a loop when you activate it on the CDJs. I like to actually put my loops in a part where there's just drums and not a lot of like chordal sounds or bass tones or anything like that, but basically stuff that we can like mix into an area that will come in with some impact from just a basic drum loop. So I don't always like to use the full 32-bar mix in. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's audio that you just can't avoid anyway. So it doesn't really matter where you set these up in those instances. But let's take a look at this song. I'm going to turn this loop off here so we don't have that. There we go. Okay. So here it's just full drum sound, full drum audio. And then there's a little break. And now the music comes in. So that would be my starting point. So what I would do is I would go to the 1 of where like the music kind of really kicks in. And I'll put my marker right on the first one. And then I'd go to the left here. And this is like a quick scroll, and you can choose by how many beats or bars, right? So if I change it to 8 bars, or 8 beats rather, it'll go back 5, 6, 7, 8, and now that comes in. I like to give myself 16 to mix in. So I would hit this back twice from the same starting point that we did before. And then I would set my 8-bar loop, set that to A, and now, little pro tip for you, I also use C as the same hot cue as A because some of these CDJs have just been destroyed over the years, and the stupid A button hot cue just doesn't work anymore, and nobody uses C. So C is kind of always my main one, and I always set them just to have options because you never know what button might be broken on the older models of the CDJs. So A and C for me always kind of match the same thing. So now if I hit C, it'll play this little 8-bar loop, and it's just drums. Now I can mix this into anything, and then I turn it off, then we'll get another 8-bar count, and then the music comes in. But we're gonna dive into that on the actual gear, and I'm gonna show you guys how to do that after we dump our songs onto the playlist in one of our next videos. So stick around.